Hi, I'm Alison Ellis of Floral Artistry. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm talking about pricing mistakes. I've got a little series in the line here. So I have four major issues that I think florists have to solve around pricing. So I'm calling these my four biggest pricing mistakes, and there'll be four videos. So today is the first video. You may know that I created a course called Flower Math, and it's intended to be a guide for florists on pricing and profitability. And that's really about formulas and how to keep your profit margins in check, and most importantly, how to keep your buying in check. But this is not about the math part. This is really about the mistakes that we can sometimes make when we are quoting a job or hoping to get some business. And I just want to make sure that we stop making these mistakes. So let's get started with the first mistake that florists make, and that is quoting on the spot. If you've been in business for more than a minute, there's a good chance that you have found yourself in this position where someone says, how much is that going to be? And they want to know right now what that's going to cost. And there's a little bit of pressure because we do want to please the customer and we don't want them to feel like we're being cagey and like withholding information, but it can be hard to quote a price on the spot. And in fact, it is almost always a mistake to do that, especially when you're quoting like a whole job, right? How much, just ballpark this for me. I mean, an estimate, we won't hold you to it. Just what do you think? Well, guess what? That's a question that you have to learn to not answer. Because, again, not because you want to withhold or be cagey to people, but because you don't know until you really sit down with a calculator and run some numbers. Like actually do that flower math and figure out what is it that what are all the pieces? There are a lot of components that go into giving you that quote. Compare yourself to a contractor. I do this a lot, actually. I think of, it's hard to find a business that's comparable to what we do. But like a contractor or a builder is really the closest thing that I can think. Someone who puts in a lot of work before booking a job, who has to give away pricing information before booking the job, and then has to create and fulfill that vision just like we do, right? And it takes a lot of people, and it takes a lot of time, and it takes talent and skill, okay? So think of yourself as a contractor. If someone comes in to, give you a quote on a home improvement, you could say, well, how much is that going to cost? And if they say, well, I'm not sure, I'll have to do the numbers, you're not thinking to yourself, this is a sketchy contractor. You're thinking, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? This person has to figure out, how many square feet and how many men and how much of, I don't know what they do. That's why I hire a contractor. I'm not one, right? But so whatever goes into their part of the job, they need to figure that out. They can't just, he could say, oh, I don't know, anywhere between $700 and $5,000, I don't, it's not helpful, right? So think of yourself like that. When you have moments around pricing where you're like, oh man, I better just quote this right away. Don't get sucked into quoting on the spot. A contractor wouldn't do that. A contractor would feel fine about saying, let me get back to the office and I'll run some numbers and I'll have a quote for you by the end of the week or whatever. Here's another reason why you should not jump to quoting on the spot. Because yes, we want to please the customer, and yes, we want to be transparent and answer their questions. But what if you quote wrong and you come in way low because you completely forgot about this huge aspect, or you just blatantly forgot to include the delivery because you were just thinking about the line items, because you're on the spot, you're put on the spot. What if you quote way too high because you forgot that, you don't actually need that much labor to pull this off because this got changed. You need to sit and focus and think. And if it's that important to the customer that they get a price out of you right now, well, they're probably too price oriented, okay? So when someone is really driven by price, it's the number one motivating factor in their decision. They're just going to pick whoever has the lowest price, right? Most likely. So are you going to put yourself in an awkward position to win the affection of a client who only wants to book with you if you're the cheapest? It sounds crazy when I put it that way, doesn't it? It sounds crazy. You're like, I'm going to make myself uncomfortable. I'm going to throw out a number. I'm going to feel the pressure. I'm going to regret it. And then this customer is going to only work with me if I happen to be the cheapest. You want people to pick you because you're great. You want to show them what you can do for the price. So don't just throw out numbers on the spot. You don't have to. If you needed that permission, I am giving it to you now. You don't have to quote on the spot. It doesn't mean that you don't know your job if you can't quote off the top of your head. Hey, some things you can, right? How much are cocktail pieces? Oh, okay, you can throw out your average price for a cocktail arrangement. But you're not going to quote, some hanging installation or, pedals for an aisle without actually running the numbers. If it's an addition or a change, you have the right to say, I will work up a figure and get back to you. So how much is this going to cost? Good question. I'm going to run some numbers and I'll get that to you. Easy peasy. You have an answer. I will get that information for you. So keep that in mind. Stop making this mistake if you are. And you know what? You can be in business a long time and still make this little mistake because we can feel that peer pressure of wanting to please the client. But don't. Consider yourself a contractor. You have the right to run the numbers and give them real facts and figures and not just a hunch based on the pressure. So don't get put on the spot. Keep doing beautiful work, and I will see you next time. Next video is going to be the second pricing mistake that florists often make, so I hope you'll tune in. Thanks for watching.